What if I told you that your wife saying, I don't love you anymore, may not be telling you what you think it is? Because when you hear those words, your mind probably goes straight to thinking she doesn't feel anything for you anymore and your marriage is all but over. But there is something much more important that those words can tell you about what has happened inside your marriage, and knowing this will give you a way better idea of where to put your energy next and what actually needs to change if there is going to be room for that love and connection to grow again. Let me show you exactly how. When you hear your wife tell you that she doesn't love you anymore, or even if she's not sure if she loves you anymore, it puts you into this mixed feeling of, I don't want to necessarily say panic, but almost like your heart sinks into your stomach. And I know from my own experience, your body almost starts rounding up the troops because everything inside you wants to challenge what she just said. I know something I was very guilty of, and this may resonate with you as well, was really starting to think about recent things that happened and started throwing those into her face. Good things, like how she said only a month ago how much she loved me, or a couple weeks ago we had a really good weekend away together. So when she tells you she doesn't think she's in love with you anymore, you may start to pull all those things out, like, well, then how come we had so much fun a few weeks ago? Or why did you just tell me you loved me not that long ago? Like, if you really felt nothing for me, how were we able to do that? I'd been there, so I get that feeling. And I use this analogy a lot because it is a really good illustration of the circumstances. You are trying to make sense of something that feels completely contradictory and turning it into a referendum or court case on her feelings. It is impossible to win her feelings by presenting her with this list of evidence of where it shows where she should love you. You know how there are so many sleep tracking apps now to measure the quality of your sleep? It's like somebody telling you that they are so tired and exhausted, and you tell them to show you their sleep tracker data. You tell them, actually, you slept 7 hours and 12 minutes last night, so technically you shouldn't be tired. Maybe the data on the app is accurate, but guess what? They are still feeling exhausted. And if you keep trying to tell them that they should feel fine, that they shouldn't feel tired because the data said so, pretty soon the conversation is no longer about their exhaustion. Now you're forcing them to defend their own experience to you. If she tells you she doesn't feel love for you anymore and you immediately start telling her why she should, you're going to start reinforcing that maybe she's right to feel that way because you're not listening to what she's actually sharing with you. And because of that, because you can't argue her feelings, it will actually cause her to start thinking about how this experience is very similar to all the other arguments and negative times. So without even knowing it, you're putting her subconscious into a position of working even harder to build the case against your marriage. Obviously, the opposite of what you want. So you may not like hearing those words. They are going to hurt for sure, but it doesn't mean you have to interpret it as a permanent conclusion that your marriage is finished. I wouldn't advise you to say, you're right. What you're saying, you're right. We should actually just divorce. But it does mean you need to stop fighting the fact that this is genuinely her experience right now. You have to be able to separate the two things, accepting her current feeling and agreeing that the future has already been decided, because it isn't necessarily decided. You can hear that she doesn't love you anymore or isn't sure or doesn't feel the same as before, and you can take the internal approach of telling yourself that this is where she is right now, so you need to understand how things got here. That is a very different posture from needing to make her take those words back or rephrase what she is saying to you. So those words, I don't love you anymore. Let's take a look at what those words are really telling you. If you want to approach those words she's saying the best way, then treat it like a check engine light in your car. If that light comes on while you're driving, the little orange or yellow light on the dashboard isn't what's wrong with your engine. That light is just letting you know something has been happening underneath the hood, and if you keep on driving the way you have and ignore the warning light, something very critical is probably going to happen pretty soon to your engine. I don't love you anymore is the check engine light. Those words may be the first time you realized how serious things really have become, but that isn't the first time she experienced the problem. And you may have had some inclinations that things weren't going spectacular, but those words, that check engine light, oh, that is a critical warning. You don't want to be like those guys that think, everything changed a few months ago when she started talking about a possible separation. And then you start looking further backward and realize she's been bringing up communication for 3 years, or repeatedly said she's felt alone in the relationship. You start to recognize she stopped opening up with you, with the reason being it always got turned into an argument. Now, I also don't want you to start blaming yourself for missing the subtle warning signs all the way up until the check engine light came on, or assume everything is going wrong in your relationship because it's your fault. But in order to repair the relationship, you have to understand both perspectives of it. If you can start to understand her perspective at a fundamental level, you can then understand why the underlying feelings she has that caused her to tell you she doesn't love you anymore or isn't sure if she loves you anymore are not automatically the prophecy on the future of your marriage. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, well, she told you she doesn't love you anymore, but she really doesn't mean it. She may very well mean it, right? Like that may be genuinely what she feels at this moment. And even with it not feeling great to hear, respecting that reality of the way she feels at this point in time is important. What you also need to do is not conflate, I don't feel love toward you right now, with it's impossible for me to ever experience anything differently toward you ever again for the rest of my life. She doesn't know that second statement to be true, and you don't know that second statement to be true, and also I don't know if that second statement will be true. Feelings are affected by experience. Your wife is probably not going to be consciously thinking, here are the 12 psychological reasons I no longer feel romantic love towards you. The reality is her emotional system has started associating your relationship with things like pressure, disappointment, tension, defensiveness, loneliness, repeated conflict, and other unfortunately negative experience feelings. So as painful as that is to hear, that you are basically associated with all these emotionally draining things, you have to start changing A, your own experience as a leader, and B, her experience of you before you can ask for those feelings to return for her. I know when you're going through something like this, you may have this logical order in your head of how things should pan out. I know that when I was dealing with hearing these words from multiple women in my life, when I was going through my own relationship decade of disaster, I had this panic logical plan of, listen, first, I just need to convince her that yes, we're in a rough patch, but everything we've been through, you still love me, right? I thought if I could just jar her memory enough about all the good things, she would then maybe say, yeah, you're right, I do love you, and then become a little bit more affectionate towards me. Then we can do the whole side project of actually working on the relationship and strengthening things, and then I could finally relax knowing that we were on the right path to fixing it together. I don't know if you've thought of it in that format, having it work in that order, but what I didn't know was I was asking her to give me the emotional result before she experienced enough evidence for that result to actually make sense for her. I was so clueless for so many years as to how feminine energy worked. So if you were thinking that and you try to show her past pictures of fun times or are trying to get her to remember the time she did love you, I completely empathize with that intention because I've done it too, but it won't work. If she spent years feeling unheard, she needs repeated experiences of actually being heard. If she stopped trusting your promises, she needs to see consistency without being asked every week whether she's starting to trust you yet. All of these different types of moments, you can't ask her to feel the result before she experienced enough of the change for herself. You may think like I used to, where logically, I felt I needed to convince her to work on things with me, and that if she really wanted to have a great relationship, then she would be willing to work together and we could work as a team. I was pretty naive and really didn't understand the emotional disconnection process. I know that this feeling where everything is coming unglued is very, very scary. But rather than pleading with her to work with you, becoming angry, or telling her why divorce would destroy the family, you have to start managing your own fear well enough to hear what she is saying. And I'm going to help you out by giving you 3 main things to focus on right now if you're in this position. The first thing is believe her current experience without turning it into a permanent prediction, right? If she's told you she doesn't love you anymore, you don't have to tell yourself she's wrong. And you also don't need to tell yourself everything about your marriage is over. Simplify it down for yourself to its true core, which is this is where she is right now with her feelings. That keeps you in reality without turning it into a prophecy for the rest of your life. Second, don't put her in charge of regulating your fear for you. This one is big. If you repeatedly ask her or broach the topic of there still being a chance, or if she's willing to fix things and so on and so forth, you're asking the person who is already uncertain about the relationship to make you feel more secure about the relationship. And the third thing to focus on, pay attention to the ordinary experience you create. Not just trying to be perfect for any big conversations that may come up about the relationship. We're talking about the ordinary Tuesday night, driving somewhere together, having a disagreement about something stupid. Any of these ordinary moments. They matter a lot because those are where she learns what being around you feels like. Her small, negative experiences repeated over time are how you got here in the first place. To get on the right path to begin changing where things go next, you have to replace those small negative experiences with positive ones of you being the leader. So to land the plane here in this video, I know that hearing your wife say she doesn't love you anymore hurts like hell, but it can also make you feel like you have to do something immediately. Find that perfect thing to say or remind her of the times in the past when she did love you. Your biggest opportunity right now is to stop fighting the painful sentence she has said to you and understand what actually created it, because that is something you actually have influence over. If your marriage is in that place right now and you want the best path to building that reconnection with her again by focusing on all the things that truly matter, I put together a free masterclass that walks you through the bigger picture of what you need to focus on next. You can find the link for the free masterclass in the description and pinned comment below. I highly encourage you to go watch that now so you can start taking the right actions immediately that will give you the true path to rebuilding your relationship with the right principles. And if your wife has gotten to the point where she barely wants to communicate with you at all, watch this video next, because I'll show you why that may actually be happening and what you can do differently when she finally gives you an opening.